Welcome back to Chop Talk. Not to be confused with the other Chop Talk that we've recently found out is a podcast in Iowa about pig farming, pig barbecuing.
So interesting.
It's interesting, but irrelevant for us.
We were checking our SEO, and we were like looking up our podcast, see how many views we got just now. And these random guys showed up, pulling on our space SEO.
That's cool. We'll be taking over in no time. It's all good.
I think so. Yeah.
35
You got a nice
subscribers.
website, though.
If you're big into Iowa pork, go check them out. But
I'm a big barbecue guy. I don't know about you.
yeah, I don't know about all that.
We
You
shouldn't
don't
be
like barbecue?
promoting our competition, even though it's pork.
Even though it's good food, good
Yeah.
eats. Yeah. That's a fair point. Anyway, welcome back. This is our episode 2. Today we'll be talking about a movie we all watched. Not together. We watched it separately. We didn't cuddle up.
Make that clear.
Make
Yeah,
that
very clear.
Yeah, we sat in our own rooms, our own houses. But I think, how about we start off with if we liked it or not,
So we'll say, Gary, this is your first watch of The Sixth Sense. Everyone knows. I think a lot of people who are into this type of genre know about this movie, and it's a M. Night movie, which, great director, great producer, all that. So this is his first project and his first time ever directing a movie. I just want to know, first thoughts, first opinions, what do you think?
Going into it, I thought there would be more jump scares to it, more scary in a sense. And it just took a different loop, the whole movie, suspense till the very end, till I put everything together at the very end.
True, yeah. No, it confused most people
Yeah.
watching all the way through.
Especially, being in filmed in 99, right? So that era of horror was a lot of thrasher, gore type stuff,
Yeah.
So this was the first of its
came
kind.
out, dude, it was
This
just
was a
gory body horror.
first of its time, and it kind of set a new standard for a different type of genre of horror, like that psychological, get you thinking, not a lot of jump
Definitely.
scares. So it's definitely a cool one to talk about. One of my personal favorites.
The whole time, just watching it, I'm trying to figure out what's actually going to happen. So
Did you get any, actually, we should preface spoilers.
Yeah, no, might as well
if you
get those out
haven't
of the
seen
way.
this- if you haven't seen this
And that's
movie.
on you because
Spoilers.
it's 26 years old, so, this is on you if you don't know this by
6-year-old
now.
movie.
it took me till now to figure out this movie existed. So
Yeah. Anyways,
It's pretty surprising that, all I hear about is people talking about The Sixth Sense. When horror movies come up,
yeah.
it's just kind of nonstop. Psychological horror, this is on
It's
the
the
forefront.
epitome.
It really is.
So, yeah, as we know, Bruce Willis plays Malcolm, who's a child psychiatrist, and we know in the beginning of the movie he's in there talking with his wife in the bedroom, and this guy breaks into their house, and he looks like a mess, just fresh out the psych ward,
Yeah.
and he's got some gashes, kind of just in his underwear in the bathroom, looking petrified, scaring the hell out of Malcolm and his wife.
Malcolm and his wife just sitting
Yeah,
in
they're
their
just-
room.
And anyways, yeah, he's
the cold breeze comes through.
starts asking Malcolm these questions about how it's all his fault for this. At the moment you don't know what it is,
You
but
think it's just a crackhead
Yeah.
who jumped
Yeah,
into their
but
window.
this
and
is one
they
of
have to call the cops, but it kind of alters as it goes on.
as we know, this is one of Malcolm's ex. What do you call them? Students, patients,
patients?
patients. Yeah,
Patients, yeah.
It's one of his ex-patients, and his parents ended up getting a divorce after their, I guess, sessions or whatnot, and so, the guy automatically knows it's going to pin it on Malcolm's fault, so he ends up shooting Malcolm right then and there, and then the scene fades away with him just laying on the bed, bleeding out a little bit, and they don't mention anything about him dying or nothing.
Nope.
But they pan over to the next fall, which I think is interesting. They don't say next year or next month, next whatever.
There was a weird wording to it, yeah.
It's next fall, and then it kind of picks back up that with not mentioning much, but, no one really knows if he's dead or not, but then you see him in the next scenes, and so you're like, oh, he's not dead. But as we know, by the end of the movie, we see that he is actually a ghost in
is.
this entire movie.
Yep,
So
that
Especially
is
with
the big twist.
yeah, the big twist.
Especially with the illusion when they go to the next fall, and then all of a sudden he's talking to another patient of his that we think is, and
Mhm.
he's going through all these questions because of what happened to the last guy that shot him
Yeah.
and turned out he'd kill him, but
Vince, yeah, that was his name.
Vincent,
Vince.
yeah.
Vincent.
Vincent Gray.
Yep.
Was his name.
So should we jump into kind of Bruce's role in this, being
Bruce's
casted by
role,
M. Night?
casted by. Yeah, I mean, I think it's interesting that they specifically picked Bruce as the casting, as he's more of like a. When you think of Bruce Willis, you think of Die Hard, right? You think of this crazy, living it up, living on the edge of life, but never really gonna die. Kind of action hero, like some Tom Cruise shit,
mhm.
Yep.
So taking him and putting him in this role, this psychological horror role, is it's interesting because everybody kind of expects him to kind of live through it, and nothing really, I get almost like paranormal could happen to him, right? It kind of like throws off the entire audience when he shows up on screen. Like, I wouldn't expect Kevin Hart to fucking be some ghost and there be a giant twist surrounding Kevin Hart. Like, it's interesting. And I think it does a great job of kind of throwing off the audience, which there's a lot of things in this movie that throw off the audience that I think is really cool, which we'll get to in a later section when we kind of nerd out about some of the cool stuff there is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
yeah,
as we know, this was M. Night's first movie production, and he, I think it's interesting. I read a bunch of theories on this with M. Night and how, he kind of has had a roller coaster of a career since this movie, and it was hard for him to start pumping out more movies without people expecting that twist, because what people will start doing with his films after this is they'll be looking for that twist in the beginning, and it kind of ruins a lot of it, because that's what people are expecting of him now. And so I think it was kind of funny that like this, honestly, he's always been profitable in his movies with his budget and whatnot, but like after filming this, it kind of like it kickstarted his career in a way, but then also kind of started the downfall of his career because of people having this expectation in their heads that this is how the movies are going to go, and they're looking for that. And so it kind of took away from a lot of the other plots of his later movies, and, I thought it was kind of funny how that worked out for him. But, yeah, I don't know, just a little key insight into that. I think it was pretty funny how that worked out.
I feel like, should we maybe, like, circle back around to, like, kind of finish off the synopsis? Because I know when I rewatched this movie, which I think it's arguably a better experience rewatching it than watching it for the first time, because the shock at the end is crazy, right? Like when you figure that out, and there's actually a few other like kind of shocks that happen. But I don't know. Watching it the second time and pinpointing and like picking out little moments and like imagery and shot choice is really just fucking impressive. I think I did notes during the whole thing because I was a nerd.
You were nerding out
I was
during
nerding
the whole
out a
time.
little bit. I also just wanted to have like some content we could look
Oh,
over.
for sure.
Definitely.
Let me see if I can find it. I'm probably not going to be able to bring up the image exactly, but there's a moment when he gets home for the first time, and he kind of jiggles on the door, can't go downstairs. It's found out later that door, the reason he couldn't open that door, or any door for that matter, is because that door that they do 3 separate shots on of the exact same replica of that shot of him opening that. It's because there's actually a table in front of it, and that's where she kept all his stuff because he's dead.
Makes sense.
But anyway, he goes down there, and he's kind of looking through his stuff, and I think he was doing research on Latin, I think, to figure out what Cole said in the church.
As we know, Cole is patient that, as we know, the famous line, "I see dead people," is what he said to Malcolm, and Cole has some type of condition or paranormal something in his head where he's able to talk and see dead people.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's just prefacing
What's-
Cole if you haven't seen it.
Was the real question, was Malcolm, at that point, was Cole seeing Malcolm before he died? Is this how this all comes up?
Well, he was already dead by the first time Cole sees him, which is actually interesting. That's a good segue into what I was going to talk about. When he first saw him, it's kind of interesting to note that he first sees Malcolm in a church.
Yeah.
Yes.
The first time he says anything to him is in a church setting when he's just sitting in the pews. Kind of weird. And, you know, a little bit of that foreshadowing, which there is a lot of.
It was
There's
definitely weird.
Seriously, a lot of foreshadowing. Anyway, I'll get back to my original point. He goes home, and he's in this basement. He's translating what Cole was saying in Latin. And it cuts to this shot when he figures out what it was. Hold on. Cut this out. I gotta find out what it's called. There it is. All right, here it is. Out of the depths I cry to you, O Lord, is what he translated. But Shyamalan does this cool kind of side profile shot right after that. Do you guys remember that, or does it
I read something about this.
Yeah, I didn't read it. I just kind of, this really stuck out to me because the shot they chose, it's the side profile of him looking to the right into the dark of the basement, and then it crossfades that shot into the next establishing shot, which is showing they're back at the church. It was this statue of an angel kind of looking left and up into the sky. So it's kind of showing like the contrasting the two. So it kind of shows like this kind of spiritual kind of thing because they're literally contrasting him with like an angel and the idea of heaven. So he's looking away from heaven because he's kind of stuck in, kind of haunting because he can't, rise up.
Right.
I thought that was really interesting. That's one of my favorite shots, just kind of off rib.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there's a lot of shit.
Saying I got a lot of little hidden Easter eggs I'll get into in a bit, but we'll finish the preface first.
Yeah.
But.
Yep.
All right, so what happens after that? He kind of starts, Cole, needs therapy, and the audience kind of assumes that with like shots where where Malcolm's like sitting next to the mother, there's a shot where they're both sitting in chairs later in the film where Cole is kind of coming home, and he's, they're sitting down, and Malcolm is looking directly at his mom, but the mom is kind of looking like a little down and off to the side.
Yep.
Which we now know she can't see him. He's not actually there. Then they walk away, and I think she says this line of like, "You've got an hour," which is really cool. Because you can see how manufactured each individual second of this film is, because the audience thinks they're talking, off rip. Oh, therapist, this is a regular thing. Blah blah blah. We don't need to like talk. Mm-hmm. So you've got an hour with Cole, but really, she's just saying that to Cole that he's got an hour until dinner.
Yep.
Which is another really cool one.
Yeah.
So they kind of go through like therapy through the movie, and he, Cole's like a troubled kid. He can't make any friends, and he's dealing with this, sixth sense that he can see these paranormal things wherever he's looking. And eventually, he kind of, what's like the turning point, would you say?
I mean, I think
I'm trying to think.
The phrase when he says, "I see dead people," and then Malcolm Bruce kind of like shoves it off saying, "Oh, in your sleep," right? Is what he says directly after that. Mm-hmm. So it kind of brushes, like Cole right then and there is dropping the bomb on him, like saying, looking at it in the eyes, "I see dead people," and he doesn't pick up when he brushes it aside, And I think that was kind of an interesting point as well, because they kind of with Malcolm's line saying, "Yeah, in your dreams," is kind of pushing it aside, not making the audience think too much into it. But I think that was the big turning point into it. And then I think another thing that kind of people didn't pick up on was when he met him in the church. Malcolm met Cole in the church. When Cole was leaving, he grabbed that figurine off the church.
Yeah.
Remember him doing that. And you'll notice when he goes in like his room, when he has that collection of like little figurines.
Yeah.
Each one of those figurines symbolizes one of the ghosts he's talking to.
Really?
Mm-hmm. So that was kind of a
didn't
big
know that.
thing
Oh, I
people
didn't know
missed
that.
on. And you notice another thing with I wasn't gonna get into this now, but since I'm kind of talking on
Hey,
the subject,
yeah.
it's
Roll.
the color red is the biggest indicator of really any significant moment in that movie. So if you notice the figurine he took was wearing a red robe,
The fort was red, right?
the fort was red. The
Yeah.
church doors were red. The stepmom was wearing a red coat in the
coat-ish
funeral.
thing,
You know,
yeah.
she was wearing red fingernail polish.
Right.
She what else?
There was a
The
door
wife-
handle that was
Yeah.
hot,
The door
burning
handle
hot
itself
red.
was,
Yep,
was
it was
like
hot
this kind
red.
of ruby red. Yeah.
Yep, and probably the biggest one was his wife, Malcolm's wife, in the very end of the movie was wearing that like she had a red blanket kind of that she kept covering herself with. And when
yeah.
Malcolm entered the room, she kind of pulled the blanket closer and tighter because she got colder. Because in the presence of ghosts, you kept seeing the breath was you could see people's breath as in like Cole's and his wife and all that.
Do we know if that's where that came from? Like the kind of the breath
That makes sense.
signifying like ghosts and
Yeah,
shit?
yeah.
I thought it
That's
was
so cool.
from the beginning when they broke into when that guy broke into Malcolm's house and the broken window was the breeze. You could see that breath coming
the
through.
cold
So
air
I thought
coming
it was
through?
just broken windows the whole time.
No,
That's like kind of, it could be like foreshadowing for him.
Yeah.
Tying back to that opening scene as well, when they say you were cold and stuff and all that, you'll notice Vince, he had a laceration on his leg at first, which you don't really notice. And then like around the 10-minute mark, you'll see him turn around and all of a sudden he's got back scratches on his back.
Yeah.
And then he turns back around and you'll see he's got new scratches on his abdomen, noting that he's being tormented by a ghost this whole time, which is also an indicator of it being so cold in there, which is what led him to also kill Malcolm in that moment, was this ghost kind of tormenting him this whole time.
And also with like the ghosts, didn't they have like the same markings as what Cole had on his body?
Yeah.
Each ghost had like a different...
Similar, yeah. And the thing
Similar
that Vince was dealing with was the same thing that Cole was dealing with, because when Vince was also seeing these ghosts and talking to these ghosts, and he had a little white tuff on his hair in that bathroom scene, and you'll notice Cole had the same white tuff in his hair in a lot of the scenes and throughout the whole movie, which was kind of also an indicator that that person was seeing ghosts and communicating with ghosts. So they had the same condition essentially, which I think was very, very interesting. Like those little tiny things you don't pick up on. M. Night did a really, really good job.
It's
on.
Chekhov's gun, man. Every little detail absolutely matters.
Is everything,
back.
Yep.
Yeah.
100%.
Interesting.
Now thinking about it, that's probably why going back and watching it second time, you can focus on those little Easter eggs. As when I was watching it for the first
Yeah, 'cause
time,
the first time
I was just
you're
into the plot.
fully- You're just fully immersed.
What's happening and what could come next, not what's happening in the background per se.
You got to see
right.
through it.
Yeah.
Like another little Easter egg thing, not really Easter egg, but thing people don't notice is there's no perception of time throughout the entire movie because you're seeing it through Malcolm's perspective. So you'll never know, oh, this is happening 2 days after this. This is a week later, a month later, whatever. They kind of just, each scene transitions from Malcolm doing one thing to just another thing with no, like, time perception at all.
That is true.
And it feels weird with that time perception you were talking about, with like the repeat of shots. We were talking about this earlier, of like this specific shot of like the street, him walking down, like it's night, day, it doesn't matter. It's the exact same shot.
Yep.
And they shoot a lot of these same shots just to show, kind of time is this really weird, thing that it's almost like showcasing deja vu in just this strange form. Because I imagine if you're Malcolm, right, you're not just walking around from A to... Well, I guess you would be walking around from A to B, but it feels like you wouldn't really be able to leave, right? You're kind of trapped in this area, like with a haunting would, because, those people don't really leave.
Tying to that, another little tidbit people don't notice is every scene like in the beginning scene when he was lying on the bed after he got shot, the scene fades to black. And when he's doing another scene and he kind of lays down, does whatever, the scene fades to black again.
Right. Okay.
And it isn't until the very, very end of the movie when he says goodbye to his wife, the scene fades to white, showcasing that he finally went to heaven. So he's kind of stuck in this loop, knowing he's there to help something. He's there for a purpose by a
Isn't
greater...
that the purpose of, like, the very first shot of, like, the light bulb kind of turning on in this darkness?
Yeah. So the light bulb turning on as the opening scene to the movie is a big indicator of that. And it isn't. That's the only time you'll see that. And then up until the very end, you'll see it fade to white again. But
what do you think the light bulb's, like, supposed to symbolize? Is, like, the light bulb Malcolm? Because he's kind of like this light in the darkness.
Yeah, he's still alive.
During that scene. Yeah, so it's kind of tricky to pinpoint that exactly.
Maybe it was like a flickering, like he's going to die.
It could be
like
some type of foreshadowing going on, but yeah.
I thought it was so when I watched it just now, or this morning, whatever, and I was thinking that it was every time it went black, I thought it was like a built-in like commercial, because they have commercials on all these streaming sites.
Yeah.
So I didn't even think of that. I just thought, they inserted a commercial there or something.
No, it was really just symbolizing going from time to time, and that he's still there for a bigger purpose sent by a greater good. You know,
makes sense.
There's some higher up controlling this whole thing, knowing that he needs to be here in order to help Cole, and until that is fulfilled, he won't be able to, go up and rest. I
guess we can segment over to like the rest of the synopsis then. So like how it kind of like ends, or how it like starts to end is, Malcolm starts to, actually get to Cole a little bit in like talking and shit. And with that, that last kid, what's her name? The little girl, I forget her name.
That showed up in Cole's room.
The girl that shows up in Cole's room.
Kira?
Which it happened. Yeah, Kira. I feel like that is one of the big ones, because that's the first, ghost he can actually, he is convinced to talk to via Malcolm, saying like, okay, I thought about it. I believe you now. I believe that you can see dead people, which we should also say is because Malcolm went back and looked at Vincent's tapes, and he listened to one, and he could hear the sound of a ghost in the background, which was, I think he was talking like Spanish or something. Not really important, but yeah.
Yeah, they actually replay that same Spanish phrase at the very end of the credits.
Really?
I forget exactly.
Now they do.
They do, yeah. I forget, like the music fades out and they play that same phrase. I don't remember exactly what it translates to, but it's something like "God save me," something like that.
Oh.
It's a verse from the Bible that's super symbolic to the entire movie that they kind of want to ingrain in your head. Like you can.
I believe it was. I'm gonna butcher this, but like no, yo no quiero. I didn't take Spanish. Quiero morir.
I don't want to die.
I don't want to die. Yeah.
So yeah, they played that a few times throughout it, and they played it at the very, very end, and it symbolizes something. I don't know who exactly they're referring to though, but
but that kind of is like the triggering point for Cole to finally, get the balls to go over and ask the ghosts why they're here and why they're trying to talk to him. And he does this with Kira, and I think, honestly, very underrated part of the movie that people don't, like, at least when I talk about Sixth Sense with other people, they don't really remember this part. But with Kira wanting to talk to Cole and tell him something, which is exactly verbatim when he asks her, do you have something you want to tell me? She shows him this tape at her place of, like, it was supposed to be like this play tape where she was, like, playing with her toys and making and acting out a little scene. And then, her parent starts walking up the stairs and she throws everything down, gets back in her bed and pretends to be asleep. And then the mom walks in front of the camera, which she doesn't know is there. She sets down the food and puts in, it was like rat poison, or it was like, it was some kind of poison into the bowl. And Cole had given this tape to the father because they were doing this at the funeral, and the father watches this tape, and then there's finally this element of closure for Kira, and she can finally pass on because she had something to tell Cole, which was that I got murdered by my fucking mom.
Yeah. It was one of those, you see, it's so sad to see those things actually happen in real life, too, like they're trying to not fake the illness, but, like, force an illness upon their kids so then people feel bad for them and stuff,
exactly.
Looking for that attention. Yeah. That's a real thing, which I think that's interesting they threw in there as well, so.
Yeah, that's some messed up stuff, man.
Yeah, that's...
Yeah.
But from then, it kind of goes to...
That was, like, right into the ending, yeah.
Yeah, that was right into the ending where I feel like Cole kind of adopts this, like, maturity almost, because now he knows what my purpose is, what my sixth sense is for, and it feels like he can kind of enjoy life a lot more.
Yeah, he definitely did seem a lot happier when he was in that car with his mom right at the end.
That was a very beautiful scene.
Like, he was more open now.
Oh yeah, no, like his mom finally realized that he hasn't been lying to me, because if I was that mom, I'd be freaked the hell out. I would have jumped out of that car.
Yeah.
I mean, he went on and was like, "Oh yeah, it's Grandma. She said X, X, and X to me." He's like, "No, she didn't," and she still thinks he's lying to her, but actually, no.
He brings up something. Yeah.
He talks about how she said something at her grave, and it was like, "Are you proud of me?"
Yeah.
And then
she says
Cole
every day.
says, "Yeah." Yeah, Cole responds with, like, every day, which is another great scene, I think. And then at that point, just basically ends, and it, like, do you want to, like, finish that off? I think you...
Oh, I was just going to say that then there was another part to it where it was at the mom's dance when she was a kid, and her mom was mad at her, and she thought her mom never went to the dance, but Cole says, no, she was there in the back the whole time.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
At the old dance reception.
Yeah.
Super, super interesting.
Yeah. And then we'll finish it off. Cole tells Malcolm, fucking go home, dude. I'll see you tomorrow.
And he goes, I won't be seeing you anytime, right at the very end.
But they say that for, just
throughout the movie, yeah.
Yeah, right. He goes home, and that's where the really cool twist happens, where it's, his wife is holding the ring, which Cole tells, him to kind of, like, remember, if you want to talk to your wife, maybe talk to her in her sleep. So he kind of walks in, and she's sitting in the red blanket, kind of alone, chilling, and she's watching videos of their, like, wedding. And it isn't found out yet, but she's holding on to his gold ring, which, as you were saying earlier, Ryan, he doesn't have he doesn't show his left hand.
Nope. He keeps it hidden throughout the entire movie up until the very end, where he looks at it and it's not there, and that's when it kind of clicks in his head. He's like, "Oh, I'm dead."
And Malcolm kind of talks to her for a little bit, and then she, kind of drops her arm because she's sleeping, and she drops the ring, and it's found out that he is a ghost, and he has this kind of moment of, holy shit, I'm a ghost. But then after that, he kind of rises up. He has done what he set out to do. Vincent, Cole was kind of like a very similar situation, if not like exactly the same. So he kind of remedied his mistake, fixed Vincent via Cole, and can now rise to heaven as it fades to white. Yep. And scene, Finn, credits, done.
Cinema.
Great movie. Even if you haven't seen it, even after listening to this podcast, all of you should probably go listen to it or go watch it if you haven't seen it. You will notice so many things.
There's a reason it was nominated for 6 Oscars or something.
Yeah.
It grossed. I looked it up. I forget what the budget was on it, but it grossed like 60 million, 70 million, something like that. Which you do inflation on that now, and it's over $1 billion.
Yeah. Holy
yeah.
And there has not been a movie that has done $1 billion like that ever. And so
No.
if you like take that into consideration, how impactful this was back then, it like really puts it in perspective on how great of a piece of work this movie really is.
Absolutely.
So highly recommend.
Yeah, I recommend too.
Even if you don't like horror movies and stuff like that, this still is perfect because there's no
it's like a thriller. Really.
Yeah,
if you've watched like a thriller, I feel like it was almost like a mystery.
Yeah, it's more of a mystery than anything, because throughout the movie, the plot, if you're paying attention to the plot, there's nothing really scary going on besides just Cole's paranoia and the stuff he sees here and then. But like,
there's like one jump scare in like the school when he like sees the hanged people.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But even that, it's like it doesn't have like a loud ass.
There's no gore, none of that. No. It's all just a kind of big mind fuck in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah.
So if you like those, you found your movie.
It gets you thinking for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
It does. Definitely.
I think it was also set out kind of one of the big takeaways from it that I think M. Night was trying to put out was like for people that have like lost loved ones recently and always claim to like notice that they see remnants or like some type of sign that they're still here with them here and then.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of pays homage to that in a way that like you kind of see it happening in real time, and it makes a lot of sense when you hear from people's stories about noticing these little tidbits of things happening around their lives.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, this has to be them trying to communicate to me. And this kind of puts it in a visual aspect of that and kind of gives you some closure knowing that, like, this can actually be the case, that a lot of people do stick around spiritually, and you can sense that. And so that's, therefore, Sixth Sense,
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely.
All right. I think we hit our 32 minutes, boys. I think we're good. If we want to close out, we should mention, we were supposed to mention this in the beginning, we do have our socials. They're finished.
Are you cutting this out?
Am I cutting this out?
Yeah.
What, this bit here?
Where we're going to restart our outros?
No. We don't need to do that. Well, that's fine. I mean, we don't have to do it at the start. It's as long as people hear it.
That is true.
Yeah, unless people want to like take off points because we didn't mention it at the beginning. It's fine.
Yeah, come on.
Instagram at ChopTalk_podcast, and our YouTube, which will change. We had a controversial discussion. Chop Talk -3, because as we said in the beginning, there's some other Iowa pork farmers that have stolen away the name.
Disclaimer, we are not pork farmers.
We are not.
We do not know anything about pork on this podcast.
Mm-mm.
We are just solely here for horror stories.
It's a different kind of chop. All right. Exactly. YouTube, Chop Talk -3. I thought it was genius because there's 3 of us, but apparently not.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see about this.
We'll see. All right. Alrighty. Well, I hope all of you guys enjoyed it, and we will catch you in the next. We should. We can do our names. We can do our names. I mean, people know who we are, clearly. Spencer.
I'm Garrett.
And I'm Ryan.
Boys, we've done it. Thank you for another episode, and we will see you all in the next one, which we don't really have planned yet, but it'll be a nice surprise next time you guys tune in. So stay tuned.
Check socials.
Peace.
Check socials.